What's up, everybody? It's that time again. We got some more stuff to talk about, but this time we got to review our own picks of underrated cards for Marvel superheroes. But for that, the guy who helped me make the picks was Dev. He's back. How's it going, dude?
Hey, don't put this on me. Don't try to shift the blame onto this guy. I'm doing fantastic because I get to
I
spend.
don't know if it was shifting the blame as much as making you an accomplice. Is probably what it is.
All this too. You know what I mean? It takes two to tango, and we danced all night with this one. We did not. Picking underrated cards from a set like Marvel can be a little bit difficult. So cut us some slack. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think of my 5 picks, I'm pretty sure 3 missed. Pretty rough.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain that most of mine missed. If you want to be harsh about it, if you want to be a spike about it, I'd say that most of mine were big fat misses.
To be fair, though, these were all cheap cards, so we don't have to feel bad about it.
Right. I'd say that there's only like one card.
Yeah, only one with real value.
Yeah, with real value, and it was much higher when we first chose it. But that said, it's still holding some value, seeing some play. I think there's at least one you can be really proud of. But to get to the stuff that you can be proud of, we have to get through the stuff that I don't think either one of us necessarily can be.
It's all right. Why don't you kick us off and we'll start running down this list.
You know, I might just do that. My first pick was a little card called The Vision. Not Seth Rollins. I guess he's out of the Vision now, but not Braun Breaker, Austin Theory, Logan Paul. Instead, this is a little 4-mana 2/5 legendary artifact robot hero with flying and vigilance. Whenever we cast a non-creature spell, choose one that hasn't been chosen this turn. Solar Beam gives them double strike. Density Control gives them indestructible. Both of these still EOT. And then Technopathy draws a card. So this card was like $2, and now it's down to 73 cents. I have seen this on the EDH rec a couple of times in like Spellslinger decks, but it's not super common. I've also seen this in the arena played against me a couple of times, but it is not super common. So I just wanted to know if cast a non-creature, draw a card was good enough. And I guess it's not for 4 mana at the end of the day in most formats.
Yeah, you know, the interesting thing about this card is I think, and this is going to be kind of weird to say, that it is a control card that doesn't fit control decks right now.
Yeah, kind of. Not right now, at least.
You know, and it's weird to say that. Like, this is the type of card traditional control decks might want as a finisher or something or whatever, right? But it doesn't really fit because that's just not what control decks are doing right now.
It's punished by the fact, like, a lot of creatures, a lot of typical control win conditions. A lot of typical control win conditions that we have access to in standard right now are not good because they just use Revelation to win. Like, Revelation is the only real win condition. Yeah. So like we've got like 4 creatures right now that are like huge dudes with flash and some sort of built-in protection. Like, they would usually be finishing monsters in a control deck, and they just can't get a foothold because that stupid Jeskai Revelation card. And this is another one. Like, it's pretty cheap to get on the table in the first place, but most control decks don't want to like turn 3 tablet into turn 4 division. That's just not really how it's going to work. You know what I mean? So I guess I shouldn't be too surprised, but I felt like the card had a bit of a chance, especially given that any deck can play it. It's actually kind of neat in decks that don't have a ton of card draw effects or a ton of protect your guy effects. Kind of feels like a Morphling, but Morphling, you just like pay mana and it protects itself. But you actually have to have like something to enable it and the mana to cast the spell and all that. So kind of tough at the end of the day. So
yeah, but I will say this though, I do think it's a card that still has potential later.
Yeah, potentially.
I do think there's decks, mid-rangey piles that could end up playing it. I think there's still a spot for this card. It just isn't there right now.
Yeah. And, for what it's worth, it didn't go down to 25 cents. It's still 75. Somebody's into it somewhere out there.
Sure.
But that said, what did you have picked for your first call?
Was already super cheap. I think it was like $1.25 or $1.50 when we talked about it last time. So there wasn't a long way for this to go down. But Hawkeye, Master Marksman, 2 mana 2/2. It has first strike, reach, and when you attack, you can pay 1 and choose one of 3 abilities. You can have a creature not block, you can deal 2 damage to a player, or you can discard and draw a card. Yeah, this occasionally pops up, but that's about it. That's all you can really say about it.
It's one of those I've seen in the arena once or twice,
Yeah, and I think this is the type of card when we talk about like rotations changing things or whatever.
Yeah, yes.
This is definitely one of those situations. Or, as we get more Marvel sets that care about heroes or even archers, if you want to do that as a thing, right? There's some other places this might fit in later. So right now, not the perfect card, but it does show up here and there. So, I mean, it does still have some value. But, I mean, hell, you're paying 25 to 50 cents for it now. You don't have to pay any crazy value for it. So, again, I think if you're missing some other cards or you don't want to invest in stuff from, say, like Bloomborough or something because of rotation in 5 months, 6 months, then you can go ahead and pick this up and be safe and you can still play with it forever. And a play set going to probably cost you under $1. Hell, with tax is going to be probably like $1.50.
You're right at. So you might be able to talk the shopkeep into giving you a play set for right at $1. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. So and you don't even need a play set. You probably only need 2 or 3 of them, truthfully.
It's like you were saying about the vision. And I mean, you kind of said it about this card too, but just to piggyback and reiterate, this is another one that just looks great after rotation, potentially. It all depends on what we get. But, right now we have some really stacked red 2-drops, you know, but this is definitely a card that has like turn over turn value, the kind of thing that red decks usually like. It's got built-in reach on it, not the ability, the actual concept of reach that deals extra damage to opponents as the game goes on. I just ultimately think that it could one day be a decent card. And I'm not trying to like cope or anything. That's a pretty easy piece of cope.
Right now, you've got Mice and Slick Shot that kind of dominate that spot.
Slick Shot is just crazy. It's crazy.
So you kind of need those to go away for stuff like this to get a shot.
It's not fair when it has to contend with cards that really shouldn't exist in the first place.
That's fair.
When we get to a rotation, I think it's just a solid red 2-drop for aggressive decks. And for that matter, even if we still have the same red 2-drops, we might come to a point in standard where control isn't the dominant deck, or not every deck feels like it has to play a bunch of 1-mana removal to take out Badger Mole Cub on one, right? Like there are extenuating circumstances that make cards like this not as good in current standard. But if things clear up, we get some bans, we get a rotation, these cards aren't as popular, whatever. Things might change in such a way that mono red is a much more playable deck at some point in the near future. And then I think we reevaluate with a card like this. So overall, I think it's a decent pick, and it could still be underrated. It probably is underrated right this second. People should be playing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you're at the floor on this card for sure.
Exactly.
I mean, it's not going to be any cheaper than it is today.
Now, if you'll pardon the pun, for my next pick, I took a swing on Epic Fight over here. This is 3 mana, 2 and a green for a sorcery. Choose one or both if you want to. Double target creature's power and toughness till end of turn. And if you want to, target creature you control fights target creature and opponent controls. So a 3 mana sorcery speed fight effect is not very good, but if I can double my creature's PT till end of turn, now we're kind of talking, depending on what we're actually doing in standard. My original thought for this is that it is a potential removal spell for, say, landfall to play, while it also gives you a Might Form Harmonizer trigger without having to have that card in play. I still think it could do that, but no one's going to, while you have green-white landfall plays like Erode, sometimes Sheltered. These are just like way better removal spells, right? So I don't think we're going to get an Epic Fight standard, but I do still think this card is better than people give it credit for. But I don't expect it to see standard play anytime soon. That said, if you got a big enough green dumb men commander deck and it's like you need mono green removal, 35 cents, I'd slot this in.
I still don't mind this for tramplers. It's another reasonable removal card. Even just playing 2 copies in some standard decks does have some value. Again, cheap budget option if you're missing some other cards that you want to play. But yeah, I don't know. I think this is another one where I think a world will still exist where this is playable. It's just not necessary right now.
It ain't right now. Yeah. It ain't. I don't know if it'll be while the card's in standard, because we'll have, I believe, Harmonizer the whole time the card's in standard.
Sure.
If I'm not mistaken. But I still think
it'll be 1 year difference.
1 year, exactly. Yeah. But ultimately, I still think there's a chance on this one too. But sorcery speed, 3 mana fight effects, people are instantly kind of turned off by that. We know that's not usually good. But double a creature's PT, man, there's definitely chances for that to be crazy.
Oh yeah, for sure. There's my dream definitely is some value there.
My dream is to somehow cast this at instant speed on one of those cactars. It's like a 9999, But in any case, we can move past that one pretty quickly to your next pick. One of the coolest guys in the set. He's everyone's favorite guy. I'll say that
much. But man, even after playing with it, it was pretty mediocre.
Yeah. I've tried him too.
Yeah. We gave it a go. I will say this for the guy. It's Wolverine Fierce Fighter. For those you don't know, it's a 4 mana 3/5. It has haste. When it enters, it fights up to one target creature. And if it be dealt damage, instead, if it's already got damage, you do the swap. So, you remove the old whatever damage, and just gets new damage.
Yeah.
Which is cool. I think it still has some uses, but this feels to me like a card that's probably better in the future for 2 reasons. Either a Gruul aggro deck that cares about haste or whatever, or just wants to have the removal on creatures, right? There's some words where that could be a thing. But also, when we start talking about next year, when we get things that care more about mutants, right?
Yeah.
Because there's probably going to be some X-Men somewhere along the way, whether it's next year or the following year, and that'll make a bigger difference. But right now, honestly, I think even for the red-green decks, the 4 slot, I mean, even if it's not Ouroboros or whatever, you still have like Halana and Elena.
And Elena, right? That's a good card, yeah.
Yeah, that it really can block, has first strike, can put counters on something else, give something else haste. So I think really that's a tough thing because Halana and Elena are also in Foundations.
Yeah.
So they'll be around here, I think, a year longer than this. Wow. No, it'll be the same amount of time, actually.
About 3 years
left. They go through 2029.
Yeah.
So, So that's going to be the other tough thing. So I don't know. I think it would require, again, some other cards coming out that care about damage being on creatures or from creatures, or something that cares about mutants. Because I think just having haste, not quite good enough. Or we need some other cards that make us play, or at least want us to play, a red-green or red-green X aggro deck a bit differently for this to fit in.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed. It's just like you said, the 4-drop slot is tough, man. That's a tough slot. If anything, I will give them credit for nailing the flavor on Wolverine better than they've nailed basically any other guy in the history of UB. I think this card's like perfect in terms of what it does. But a 3-power 4-drop is not, No,
I will say, if you want one now, go scoop one for 50 cents.
That's a great deal. That's a heck of a deal. Especially if you want to do some like funky commander thing with it. It might be fun, but overall, it should be a decent little value, like Necrotal style creature, comes into play, kills something. But maybe that's part of the problem is there just aren't a whole lot of things that it can come down and kill on turn 4 in current standard.
Yeah, not much that you want to for the 3. Now, if you found a way that it enters with +2 or +4 or something, then maybe.
Yeah, taking out, Spider-Mans and Deceits and all that stuff, maybe. But I guess the idea is that this can kill like a Badger Mole Cub 3 turns after you want to do that. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's just, I don't know, man.
We should have had Wolverine be a 4/4.
Yeah.
Instead of a 3/5, but it is what it is.
Now we must have shared a card on the list because now that I'm looking at it, I think I only have 9 cards on the list. My next card, let me check this against your list. My next card is Kid Loki.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Kid Loki is a single blue mana for a 1/1 legendary god hero villain. It's cool that it's a hero and a villain. Each creature you control that you put 1 or more +1/+1 counters on this turn has hexproof. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, put a +1/+1 counter on the kid. This is 30 cents. And I think it was about that much when we talked about it. Really not a card people were paying much attention to. And I guess the same is still true. I think this is still like a fairly attractive 1-drop in my opinion, but I guess it's just not really what we're doing in standard. Like what blue deck puts +1/+1 counters on guys? Because you really want to get as much value off of this as you can, right? How does this really grow very quickly? Not really. Over the course of 3 turns, maybe it becomes a 3/3. Sounds like a decent investment for your 1-drop, but it's like I've said a couple of times in cutting all these videos today, cards have to be magnanimously good to be good in standard. You have to be crazy good to be good in standard, even in the 1-drop slot, especially in the 1-drop slot.
I don't even know if I'd say crazy good, but they just have to have some value on their own. And this is all enabling. Yeah, this just doesn't do anything.
Yeah, you have to enable this apart. And if you don't, it's just like a 1 mana 1/1 the whole game. You get Merfolk or the Pearl Trident. unless you can enable it somehow.
Yeah.
And that's probably the big issue here, you know?
And what's crazy is there was a point where this card had gotten to like $2.50 to $3 at one point.
I wanted to say that too. I felt like this card did get up for a second.
And it was so weird because I'm like, again, what are we doing with this?
Yeah, like everyone's just like,
but value. And I'm like, yeah, sure, but from
how?
where? Yeah.
And even I fell victim to that because I'm over here like, okay, like Simic, you're doing +1/+1 counters, and but just like it's not as good as anything that we're already doing in standard by not even close. You know what I mean? And to optimize a deck like this with this guy, you have to get him like every game on turn 1, or your deck's not as good. And even if you do get him on turn 1, again, standard is optimized in such a way at this point to where like everyone's packing Burst Lightnings, Requiting Hex to kill Badger Mole Cub on turn 1 if they have to. And so like guys like this kind of catch strays from people planning for Cub and whatnot. It's like it's really hard to plan your whole deck around a 1-drop nowadays.
And and I think even when we talked about it, there was some of like, oh, this kind of works with the other Loki. So if you target something, you draw a card, then you put a counter on this guy. But it just doesn't work out in practicality, unfortunately.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Sometimes you see 1-drop guys like this and they just blow up. But this dude, again, in practice, this is one that read a lot better than it really was, to me, at least.
Yeah, definitely.
But all that said, you've got a good pick up next, I think. This is a decent one.
Yeah, but this was a weird one even when we talked about it, because I think it was still in the like $15-ish range.
Yeah, this card was close to 20-ish, but not quite. Something in there somewhere.
But Shang-Chi, Master of Kung Fu, 1 and a green for a 2/2. And you may activate abilities of creatures you control as though their creatures had haste, and you can tap it, add 2 mana of any color, spend this mana only to activate abilities of creature sources. The interesting thing about this card is it actually did find a home in a couple of weird combo-y decks, both old formats and new, and even became part of like, I don't know if you saw the weird Jolly Balloon Man deck.
I have heard tale of this deck.
Yeah, this fits into that. That's been popping up in competitive play here and there. So I think it was one of those things where people went, I don't know, it gives us mana, but is it really that good or whatever? And then after you play with it, you go, yeah, this card's kind of silly when you get to pop off and do your thing, man.
Do the thing. But you got to actually pop off and do the thing.
Easier sure. But just getting that extra mana is so good.
It's very good.
Like just having that extra mana and with haste is super good. But I do like the card a lot better now at $9.
Yeah, much better. Yeah, 9-ish is about right.
Yeah.
The time that I've spent on EDH lately, people seem to really, really, really like this card. This is in a lot of green decks. As card, not as commander, just as card.
Yeah.
This is in a ton of green decks. So just monster commander card. But in standard, it did try to pop off a little bit. We talked about the unbeatable Squirrel Girl in the overrated video and how that was part of that same kind of green-black Shang-Chi deck. Which Shang-Chi was really more the centerpiece of than Squirrel Girl. But if you have both out, you can kind of like engineer infinite. So that was very cute. However, that deck only lasted maybe 2 weeks in standard. The Jolly Balloon Man deck, there's been at least twice that I've been playing on stream and we beat somebody and I'm like, what deck was that? They were shaping up to do something weird. And somebody in chat will be like, it was the Jolly Balloon Man deck. I've never actually seen what this deck is supposed to do or how it works. I've just had multiple chatters tell me that's the deck I was just playing against.
Yeah, it's a pretty weird deck that can go infinite with the help of Shang-Chi, which is fun.
Yeah.
The one thing I will say about this card too, though, that I think went largely dismissed because everybody kind of got hung up on the things you could do with the mana in this deck or with this card, is being able to activate abilities on creatures as though they had haste. So
the sort of concordant crossroadsy ability. Yeah,
exactly. Especially in commander settings where you have a lot of cards that we have to tap and do a thing or whatever. It's like, oh, now I can just do it as soon as I get it. Right. So that actually has added a lot of value to this card. So I don't think this will be lower than $8 probably for quite a while. And it might start creeping up, you know, by the end of the year.
Yeah, you discussed this earlier when the set starts going out of print a couple of years from now. This is one of those that's probably going to be like one of the 2 or 3 real standouts from the set that maintains value. I think so. Card will always be desirable in Commander for sure.
I think
that's probably the best pick on either one of our lists.
Oh yeah, that one for sure. I think we had Ironheart next.
Yeah, my next pick was Ironheart. Currently about 35 cents. I want to say it's not super expensive. Now, I will say more so than a lot of the cards that we've talked about so far. I have seen this card played against me on Arena. This is 5 mana, 4 and a blue for a 3/4 legendary artifact creature. It's also a human hero. She has improvise and flying, and non-creature spells you cast have improvise. This is 36 cents right now. I'll just reiterate that. This card was pretty cheap when we talked about it too, which I just couldn't wrap my head around. I, to this day, still think that this is a unbelievable commander piece, especially in terms of like budget cards you have access to. 35 cents is just crazy in certain commander like artifact centric decks. But I have played this in standard twice now, as a one of, especially in the blue red artifacts deck, blue red robots. Played the heck out of this card to great result. I've really liked how this card works, but when I play it, and I've had it played against me a couple times, it hasn't really made a foothold in standard, which makes sense because honestly, the format is faster than this card by a lot. But I still think this is another one that has a chance. I've got personal experience with it, a lot of good personal experience. This might have to wait for rotation or for a real dedicated artifact deck beyond Synthesizer to really pop off, but I still think it's got a chance. I do.
Yeah, this is the type of card of like, we talk sometimes of if this card's good, it's probably a fun world.
Yeah.
But I think just having to tap all the artifacts and then you put that down and then now we get some value, but then it only makes non-creature spells a thing. So it's like, how many creatures are we playing if we're trying to take advantage of this, right? I think it's just the deck building restrictions that it causes, plus the speed of the format. It just kind of kept this one under wraps, unfortunately.
Yeah. I have played the card for 1 mana several times in my life. But even then, it's like playing a Somber Hover Guard or something like that. Even a 1 mana large-ish flyer isn't enough by itself, especially on turn 4 or whatever. So the ability I've used a few times to cast stuff, but this is one of those where it's just like a little bit of value. You probably shouldn't play more than a one of this card in most decks, even ones that benefit from it. So, even kind of talking it up and coping about it a little bit right now, I still don't think it's like the 3 or 4 of that I once thought it was. Again, even having resolved the card now, it's probably a one of if you play it at all in the decks that want it. So
yeah,
that doesn't bode well, but I would still, this is another one I would kind of keep an eye on because it's a fairly unique effect for commander decks, especially. And there's a lot of, artifact decks that play non-creature spells, and you can use your artifacts to play more artifacts so long as they aren't creatures. And I do think this is the kind of commander effect that could one day be more expensive than 35 freaking cents. That seems like a steal to me right now. But all that said, we got a couple of cards left here. So what was your next pick?
This is the one I tried to go out on a limb the furthest, and my branch broke apparently because, nothing from good old Taskmaster, man. Taskmaster Mercenary Mimic, 2 and a blue and a black. So 4 mana for a 3/5. And at the beginning of your first main phase, until your next turn, Taskmaster becomes a copy of up to 1 target creature on the battlefield or a creature in a graveyard, except his name is still Taskmaster, and he's a legendary human mercenary villain. Yeah, I thought at the very least this would be a fun commander people wanted.
Yeah.
Just being able to copy anything at all times. Seems like it'd be a cool card that people would mess around with. I thought about potentially even trying to play with this in some type of like graveyardy, Oculus, whatever sort of deck.
Yeah.
I haven't got around to building that yet, but that seems to still be the only home for it, even if I were going to do it. Just unfortunately, it just never found a spot anywhere. I thought even the like Soul Tie, Reanimator, whatever decks might be like, oh, okay, well, I can copy some of these abilities in the yard or something. I could put different cards there, maybe give those decks some variety of things they could do. But that never came about either. So yeah, cards just end up doing a whole lot of nothing.
It's like in those decks, it seems like it's almost but not quite Superior Spider-Man, and like that's
well, those are ETB. That's what I'm saying. You'd have to change up the deck a little bit,
a little bit to make it work.
Yeah.
Agreed. And just that's still the existence of Spider-Man is probably one of the big reasons a card like this can't work.
Oh sure.
So, but I don't think it's just one card keeping the card out of standard. I think there's a lot of stuff that's not like exactly where you want to be with the card, but I do think it's neat. I think it's really cool that it can copy. What is it? It's anything, right?
Yeah,
Like
anything on the battlefield or in any graveyard.
Any graveyard, right? Like that's very, very neat, you know?
That's what I'm saying. Like it has to do something, right? I can't just imagine not, but apparently so far it hasn't.
So far. I mean, we'll see if maybe people catch on to it in the future. That's a thing that's happened before, you know? Or again, after a rotation or something like that. I felt like this card was fairly powerful too.
Yep.
But we just might not be in the standard for it. You know, that's probably what's going on.
Definitely not at this point. Like I said, I think I still have a deck I could build with it. That would be interesting, but that's probably it.
Should give it a shot. I mean, I'd be interested to see because I've never seen this card played, not once, which is really sad.
Nor have I, Fred. Yeah. Which is why I said that branch was way broken. I'm just lucky it wasn't a big tree.
Right. I survived the fall.
Yeah.
Honestly, my last card here was a fairly big fall as well, considering the price was, like $2 on pre-sale, and now it's 28 cents. Scryfall has this listed as one of the cheapest rares in the entire set. It's Alien Invasion. 4 mana, 1 double red and a green for an enchantment. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you get a 1/1 red alien creature token with haste, and this token attacks each combat of Fable. Put a +1/+1 counter on it for each invasion counter on this enchantment, and then put an invasion counter on this enchantment. So I assumed that I was probably taken over by some sort of pod person when I made this choice. Still, though, it is the kind of card that looks kind of cool to me in like Commander or something, but I'm not really sure why I ever thought this card could be $5. You know what I mean? It's really much more of a 35-cent card, but that said, I'll get it. I'll play it in Bellow Bard of Brambles. I'll play it in some sort of Naya Tokens deck or whatever. There's things to play the card in. I think it's worth more than 28 cents personally, but I shouldn't be surprised the card didn't necessarily catch on in Standard, but I still like it against sweepers and stuff. I'm just saying.
I don't hate this card still, and I've played it in a couple of decks and had some fun with it. I will say this though, it is the type of card that, unfortunately, the thing it should be best against, like a control type deck or whatever. Like, okay, well, here comes a 4/4, here comes a 5/5, whatever. Is that Jeskai Revelation exists?
Yep. The Jeskai closes the door too quickly for this card to be good.
Well, and I don't think it's just that. It's that it's just so easy to force you to have to reset the card.
Yeah.
And then you have to replay it, then they get a chance to counter it or whatever the case is. Right? Like, and that's a real hindrance to this type of card. Yep. But, I've done Jeskai or Naya mid-range control stuff, whatever, with winnowing or not winnowing, kin binding. Right.
Oh,
yeah. Doing that type of stuff with it, or even with Elspeth being able to get double the tokens when you make them. So there's some cool stuff you can still do, but I think it still needs probably another couple cards around it to become a real staple card, unfortunately.
Yeah. Like it seems like it'd be cute in those Naya decks that use like Felidar Retreat, Sapling Nursery, bunch of sweepers. It's like another one of those kind of win conditions for a deck like that, but ultimately, maybe it's just too slow. It makes a 1/1, 2/2, 3/3, and by the time it makes a 3/3, what do you turn 7? You know what I mean? Like, it might just be slightly too slow, and it can be reset. And the Jeskai deck has a lot of ways of just removing it. So and inevitable defeat and get lost. So
and that's the thing. You have to play it in the deck that's playing more like you're mid-rangey, but you're playing more like a control deck.
Yeah,
that you want to see turn 8, turn 10, whatever.
Yeah, like that's kind of what I brought up. The Felidar Retreat, Sapling Nursery style decks is like those decks are just trying to blank the opponent's creatures and make a creature every turn. Those do play more like control decks.
Yeah.
To your point, you know what I mean. But if this is, I'm going to play this against control and survive sweepers, and it's going to be my 4-drop. It's like I think you should just play a more aggressive 4-drop that ends the game, rather than this. You know what I mean. So, maybe this will play good against like Settle the Wreckage. You know what I mean? Maybe this will be a halfway decent.
Maybe that's actually a good call. If that becomes the meta,
then maybe.
Yeah,
but I wouldn't hold my breath. Still, I wouldn't hold my breath on this. This is not Erebras Forge.
No.
Forge was a great card. This is not that. So, I shouldn't be too surprised. But hell, you're just like some of these other cards in this video. A lot of these you can find stuff to do with in like your commander deck or whatever it is. So like 25 cents for this. 35 cents for Ironheart, 40 cents for Taskmaster, Hawkeye, 30 cents. Like there are still some steals on this list. I can promise you that.
Well, all right. That brings us to our last card, which I think at the time we knew it was a little price, but still not expensive. I think we talked about it. It was like $5 or something, or it was a reasonable number at the time, but still didn't end up seeing a lot of play. And I think this still has a lot of upside, but we're talking about the Scarlet Witch.
The Scarlet Witch. That's why I had 9 cards. I don't have that one written down. Yeah, that's a great call.
2 that's a good call. For a 2/3, instant sorcery spells with mana value 4 or greater cost X less to cast, where X is this card's power. Honestly, I thought if nothing else, this is going to be a sweet commander for people to have.
It is a murderous commander card. Lots of people play this, both as the commander and in the 99. I've seen this in a ton of mono red 99s.
Yeah. Especially if you're doing big X spell stuff.
Yeah. I've been looking into mono red commander stuff specifically lately. I think they've been trying to fix it. And they printed a lot of really good mono red commanders specifically, and Scarlet Witch is one of them, but she shows up in basically every mono red 99 over the last couple of months. People know she's good because you're playing Blasphemous Act, you're playing Unexpected Windfall, you're playing Big Score, you're playing several other like sweepers, 5, 6, 7 mana spells. There's stuff like Mana Geyser and Rousing Refrain that'll make even more mana because their cost is reduced due to Scarlet Witch. There are fantastic Fury Gale Flocking and, like you said, Fireball effects and stuff. There are tons of cards. Not to mention that a lot of these decks will somehow increase Witch's power too. To make her give you a 3, 4, 5 cost reduction. People play this in Tella. There's so many decks.
The one standard deck I made with this, I called it Seasons of the Witch because I ended up playing the Seasons cards from Bloomborough.
Oh, that's cute.
The green one and the red one.
Yeah, they're all like 5 mana. That's cute.
Yeah, and played each of the Paradigm cards. And dude, there's times you're like, okay, I'm going to play a couple of early mana creatures. If they don't deal with them, fine, we'll just hard cast the spells, right? But if they do, then you drop Scarlet Witch, and it's like, all right, I'm getting all this stuff for like 4.
Yeah.
And then when I'm
double spelling with, I'm getting 10 mana worth of spells.
Yeah, and when the green Paradigm goes off, you're now growing the power of Scarlet Witch. And just like, all right, everything costs 2 or less. Right?
Everything. Like my 8 mana spells cost, my 6 mana spells cost 2.
You just had the craziest, most insane turn. So, and that's even just on the ladder against normal standard decks. So that knowing that case is possible, I do still think there's more room for Scarlet Witch in the future for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I think this is an underplayed card in a lot of ways. Even in standard where, it just feels like, you have to cast instants and sorceries. Like that's a real thing. And you have to cast big ones too. So there's a lot of restriction on the card. But there's plenty of worlds where you play this on 3 and you basically ramp into like a 6 drop on the next turn. And that is a lot of value, man. And that's just standard.
Oh, dude, there was so many times where, like, if the opponent doesn't deal with it, I was like, okay, here comes like 2 big things next turn.
Yep. That's the other thing is it's not like a once a turn cost reduction. Like it's just straight up cost reduction all the time. So it's like a super juiced, like Goblin Electromancer style effect. You know what I mean? Or it's just like Stormcatch Mentor is a good example of a card in standard like that. That doesn't see much play, but people like the cost reduction. And like, especially on like storm turns or decks with Aetherflux Reservoir or like anything that's trying to cast a bunch of spells in one turn, especially in Spell Sling. This will provide you like literally 8 mana worth of ramp in one turn if you're casting enough spells. Just on its base power. I have seen and myself, I've had a lot of fun with Scarlet Witch, but I have increasingly seen this card in commander decks as these couple of months have gone by. And it's kind of amazing the card's only 60 cents because it kind of shows up in a lot of stuff.
Well,
I've seen a lot of people play this card against me on Arena.
If you're playing bracket 1, 2, or 3 commander even, you're going to have some number of sorceries or instants that cost usually 6 or 7. Probably nothing crazy bigger than that. But just getting the cast those on the cheap, it's like, yeah, why not? Like, might as well play Scarlet Witch and go for it.
It's going to be better than, I guess compare this to Worn Power Stone.
Yeah.
Right, a 3-drop that taps for 2, right, comes into play tap. or Palladium Mirror, 3 drop taps for 2, right? This is kind of like that, but like in most cases better. You know, like a dork that hits for that taps for 2 does it once a turn. Like this gets you way more cost reduction than that, dude. And like some spells again, like things like Mana Geyser and whatnot, you're generating a ridiculous amount.
Yeah.
So just an unbelievable card. You know, of all the cards on this underrated list, this is probably the one that I've had the most fun with personally.
Oh, same.
Just a wild, underrated as hell, still underrated card. And I don't think the fact that it's down to like 55 to 60 cents really makes it any less underrated or whatever. This is a fantastic card. It really is.
Well, that's the whole list. I will say this though. If you like watching us talk about underrated cards other people don't talk about, we do have a video that went up the other day. You should go check that out where we talk about some underrated stuff from The Hobbit and the overrated stuff as well over on Dev's channel. So be sure to check those out. And where is that channel, sir?
Well, if you want, you could put in Strictly Better MTG, but that is that's so many letters. So just put in SB MTG and you'll find me. Come watch us both review the whether or not we were right about the Marvel superheroes overrated stuff, but also talk about some overrated stuff from The Hobbit. We got a lot of stuff you can get mad about, and we know how much you love
exactly.
Mad stuff. Come on over there, check out the overrated Hobbit stuff.
Yeah, and be sure, remember, hit the like button. YouTube likes when you do that to help the channel. Go ahead and subscribe. Help us hit that 40,000 that we're just around the corner from. And that'll also make sure you get notified for whenever we do our crafting guides for the set as well, if you want to have that next week. So yeah, lots of cool stuff going down. But as always, had a good time, Dev. We'll do it again because there's going to be more Magic sets in the future. So y'all have a good time. Take care of yourself. Be nice to each other.